All right, Anthony Perez here with Harvest Wealth Strategies. I wanted to take just a few minutes to walk through Harvest Wealth Strategies process. There is a reason why we only take on 4 clients per year. And the main part of that reason is because the amount of time it takes to take a client through our process is very time intensive from start to finish. So we're going to talk through our process and what you can expect when you decide to work with us so that you know exactly the type of work and value that you'll be getting from Harvest Wealth Strategies. Okay, so there is a 5-phase process that we will walk you through from 1 to 5. Now, keep in mind, we integrate both your business financial and your personal financial situation. Now, that's really important because there are many firms out there that will focus on one or the other, but not necessarily both. And the reason why that's important is because your business financials should flow directly into your personal financial situation. And as you get ready to exit your business, you want to be in a good position to be able to accomplish your personal goals and get the maximum value for your business. So our 2 big promises to you is that by working with Harvest Wealth Strategies, you will get the maximum value for your business and pay the least amount of taxes. So let's walk through phase 1. In phase 1, we call that the identify stage. During this stage, we are going to do a lot of the upfront legwork. So a lot happens in phase 1. We're going to start with your business financials. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to do a formal business valuation. We call it our business insights report. Through that process, we are going to go beyond your company's financials. A lot of times companies feel like their financials are the primary driver of the value of the business, when in fact, they're actually not. There are several what we call intangible assets that we will run through as we go to put together this formal valuation for you. And in fact, there are 4 components of that. There's going to be your employee capital. Now, this is going to look at several different areas, which we'll jump in here to a minute. But for now, we're going to talk about your employee capital, your structural capital, your brand or your cultural capital, and your customer capital. Those are the 4 areas that we will do a deep dive into as we're going through the valuation process to evaluate the baseline value of your company. What you will get after we do this valuation is you are going to get where your company is currently valued at, plus the potential gap in terms of where you can get to when we determine best in class. So as we evaluate these 4 components or 4 intangible assets, we are going to put in action plans in place for each of these areas. Now, we are not business consultants, so we will not necessarily dive into your business financials to figure out areas such as how to improve profit margins, different ways that you can necessarily grow your business. What we're going to do is we are going to figure out different areas that you can put certain action plans in place that are going to drive those intangible value. Okay, so that's just a brief overview of what we are going to go through when we talk about your business financials, and we're going to break each one of these down here in just a moment. Let's talk about your personal financial situation. Many of you have poured a lot of your capital into the business, so it's important for us to get an idea of where your personal financial situation is. Generally, what we find most times is that business owners have anywhere between 80 to 90% of their net worth tied to the business. And that's perfectly understandable. Your number one goal at the beginning of growing your business is to try to grow your business over a period of time, and that does require capital. So we want to know where that's at. We're going to ask for a personal financial statement. In this personal financial statement, we're going to ask you to provide details in terms of your assets outside of your business as well as your cash flow. So we're going to take a look at what your income is coming from the business or through other type of sources in addition to the different assets you may have. This could be real estate. This could be your traditional investments like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and it can be even other alternative investments. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to build a baseline. We're also going to take a look at your long-term goals in terms of income needs as well as any type of legacy goals. Once we take a look at that, we're going to determine what your wealth gap is. What your wealth gap is where you're at today, where you want to be at in the future, and that gap that's in between. Generally speaking, that's where the business is going to fill that gap. So that's really important as we go through this to identify what we call what your number is. So when we say what's your number, which you'll hear that several times as we go through this video, is it's the number that you need to sell your business for in addition to what you are going to pay in taxes. So we want to make sure that's very clear. We talk about that as your real number. So it's not just about how much you get from your business, it's how much you're going to pay in taxes. And that's what we want to focus on in addition to making sure that you get the maximum value for your company. On the personal side, we are going to look at, again, your wealth gap. We're also going to take a look at your assets, and we're going to do an investment portfolio review. Now, when we talk about investment portfolio review, this isn't just going to be your traditional stocks and bonds. We're also going to look at potential alternative investments that you can make that could potentially hit your investment needs, but more importantly, it's going to hit that growth return that you're going to need to compound over a period of time. During this process, we're going to start siphoning off some of the cash flow from the business to your personal. So we're going to look at tax advantages accounts. We're going to do some planning around how do we make sure that we max out those so that you are getting not only funds into your personal name, but that you're also getting a significant tax break from the business as well as helping you personally. So we're going to look at different ways of how do we start to grow your personal wealth at a fairly rapid pace. Now, this is going to be different for everybody. You may already have a decent amount of money that is already in your personal financial situation. And so in that case, we're just optimizing that. So we're going to look at how you currently have your assets invested, and we're going to look at different ways that we can optimize that for you. If you are in a situation, as most business owners, where you have the majority of your assets tied into your business, that's where we're going to do a deep dive into how do we start moving some of those assets to you personally and starting to build that wealth engine for you. Okay, so phase two. And phase two is really just looking at protecting what you already have. So this is where we're going to do a risk assessment for, again, both your business and your personal financial situation. So this is where we're really going to do a deep dive into what you currently have in terms of liability on the business side, and do you have enough protection in case something were to happen. We're going to look at areas such as key person risk. We're going to look at areas such as buy-sell agreements, and we're going to look at overall liability potential that you may have in terms of needing to close that gap. So as we go through that process, that is going to be the baseline or foundation of how we're going to start to build the value of your business. One of the areas that we'll talk through when we go through the Business Insights report, which again is the baseline valuation, is what do you have in place for certain areas which we call the 3Ds: disability, death, or divorce. Those are the three most common risks that we see with businesses as it relates to having a contingency plan should something happen in one of those areas. That's where a buy-sell agreement is extremely important. In addition to that, we talked about key person risks. Many businesses rely heavily on individuals to go out and bring in other business to the company. These could be salespeople, these could be relationship managers. So there always is that risk that that individual may leave the company to either start their own company, leave for competition, and that could present a big risk for the company as well. Talking about competition, you all have competition in your business. We want to make sure that you're positioned well, whether it's you have patents, IP, to protect all of that, to make sure that you are protected against your competition. So those are just a few of the areas that we'll talk about on the business side. On the personal side, we're going to look at some very similar areas. So again, death, disability, divorce, the 3Ds. Want to make sure you have the proper life insurance coverage. Want to make sure you have the proper disability insurance coverage, and want to make sure that your overall trust in estate, if you have a trust in place, fantastic. If you don't, we want to make sure that you're going to be protected should something happen, you get sued, or you have other liability issues. We're also going to take a deep dive into your overall liability insurance. So everything from your auto, your home, pretty much everything where it's important for you to have some type of insurance to protect yourself from any type of monetary issue that could come about. So on the personal side, a lot of that is going to be diving into very similar but some different aspects from a risk management standpoint. Okay, so phase three. Phase three, we are going to grow the value of your company. So we've already talked about establishing a baseline. We've talked about making sure that you have the right risk management foundation. Now we're going to start implementing some of these action plans we talked about during the identifying stage. So this is where we're going to get into different areas of those intangible assets. We're going to look at the action plans that we've put in place, and we're going to monitor those over typically a 90-day time period. We're going to identify who's responsible for the task, what are the desired outcomes, and we're going to touch base on those at least every 90 days to see where we're at in terms of impacting those areas, again, those 4 intangible assets, to slowly improve the value of the company. This is why it is so critical that we start at least 2 to 3 years in advance so that we have enough time to be able to move the needle in these areas to increase the value of your business. If you come to us and you're a year or two out, or maybe you just got that offer, there's not a whole lot that we're going to be able to do to increase the value of your company. So we strongly advise that even if you are not in a situation where today you're saying, hey, I'm going to sell my company in 3 to 5 years, most business owners that I talk to, they don't think about that. They think in terms of, I'm going to continue to grow. And at some point, I may get an offer, I may decide, but it's something that's going to happen way in the future. Either way, you always want to be prepared. So you always want to make sure that you have this in place so that should the time come where you get the offer, you have all this leverage and negotiating power based on all the work that has been done. So phase four can be the most exciting and can also be the most stressful phase out of everyone that we will talk about. So during phase four, you are going to be in the harvest stage. So we've done all the legwork. So let's recap. We've identified, we've provided the risk management structure, and we've grown the value of the business to where we are at today in phase four, which is we want to harvest. We want to now take advantage of all that hard work and effort, and we should be in a great position where we are going to get top dollar for the business. We'll have the right tax strategies in place to be able to get more and keep more of what you earn in terms of the actual value of the business when you decide what you're going to do. During this process, we are going to talk about what is going to be the appropriate exit strategy for you. Now, we will have done some of this planning ahead of time, so we'll have an idea, but by the time we get to this point, we will have structured it to be very specific to what your goals and needs are. So whether that's passing the business down to your family, whether that's preparing for a strategic exit, whether that's looking at private equity as a potential solution, whether that's selling to key employees or doing an ESOP. At this point, we will have everything structured appropriately. So at that level, we're just executing what we call the actual transaction. So we've got you to the finish line. And it is at this point that we're going to engage the right experts depending upon the decision you make on how you want to exit your business. If you are going the route of a third party, so a strategic buyer or private equity firm, you're going to have additional people on the team that we can help bring in. If you have your own folks, fantastic. If you don't, we have a very deep bench of experts that we work with that we can bring in to execute that transaction. A lot of times your base team is going to include your financial planner. It's going to include your CPA, your trust and estate attorney, as well as your investment or financial consultant. That is going to be your core group. We, as your exit planning team, again, can help coordinate that team for you. Or if you have individuals, our job is to make sure that everybody works together and that nobody is working in individual silos. That's a big part of the value add that we bring to the table as we get to this phase. In addition to that, if you do decide to exit, as I mentioned, to a third party, that's when we're bringing additional people to the table, a lot that have the expertise in mergers and acquisitions. So we're talking about attorneys and CPAs that specialize in mergers and acquisitions. Can other CPAs and other attorneys help? Absolutely, but you want to bring the expert in that's all they do. So we're going to look at attorneys and we're going to look at CPAs that just specialize in M&A. In addition to that, we are going to look at different ways that we can take your business to market. And that involves an investment banker. So not a financial consultant or an investment advisor. This is an investment banker. Main difference is that they're going to be the ones that would take your company to market should you choose the third-party route, and their job is to help basically take your company and get the highest, not only just value, but the best structure in place for you as well. Again, we can help gather the team for you should you need that, but this is extremely important. If you do decide to exit to third party, you want to bring in the right specialist that can help you cross that finish line. So during phase 4, let's talk about what we'll do for you on the personal side. By now, we've closed the wealth gap. We've perfectly done a lot of the siphoning off of the financial assets to your personal. Again, not all of it. We want to be very strategic to make sure we leave enough capital in the business to grow. But at the same time, we want to make sure that you're set up financially for when this exit actually happens, which is in this phase 4. We will have established the proper tax structures, the proper investment vehicles to give you some tax advantages when you do go to exit. There's several different ways that you can structure to make sure that you are able to keep more of what you make. In addition to that, we're also going to help advise on the structure piece. A lot of people just focused on the price that they get for the business. They don't really focus on the structure. I would actually argue the structure is going to be more important than the actual value. There are situations where you may get, let's say, $10 million, but at the end of the day, that may drop to only 3, maybe 4 million after you look at the tax impact and more importantly of how it was structured. When we talk about structure, we're looking at areas such as how much cash you're going to get up front, what type of cash you're going to get in terms of what we call an earnout, which could happen over a period of time, and any other types of considerations that you may have from the company that might be acquiring you. If you are passing it down to family, this is also very important because you want to make sure that the individuals in your family that will be taking over the business will be able to comfortably afford buying you out as well as you spreading that tax impact over a period of time. So there's a lot that goes on the personal side. Again, that flows directly from how the business exit goes. And so we're going to spend a lot of time making sure that we do this in a very tax efficient manner and a very smooth transition so that you can do what you want to do post exit and not have to worry about all the stress that comes with after you sell the business or even during this process. So again, if done properly, and if you come to us with more advanced notice and time, this will be extremely exciting. It'll be, for the most part, fairly simple and straightforward. If you come to us the day you get your offer, we're going to be, rallying the troops like crazy, but it's going to be very stressful. So again, another reason why you want to start thinking about putting something into place at least 2 to 3s out. So phase 5, you've executed the sale of the business effectively. We've put together the right personal financial plan in place for you. Now we're going to go into what we call maintain. So at this point, the business, everything's done with that. Now we're going to focus on you personally and your personal financial planning. This is where you want the advice of a certified financial planner. I'm actually a certified financial planner, and I do work with individuals that don't necessarily own a business, but they need help with their personal financial planning. This is going to be where we are going to make sure that you maintain your wealth over the period of time, that you hit your goals from a legacy standpoint, and that you're always able to be in a position where you are paying the least amount of taxes as you are growing your wealth over a period of time. So this is what we call the maintain mode, and it's an area where we will meet with you on a regular basis. So again, we've established a lot of the work up front. So really, this is where we're getting together with you every 3 months, every 6 months, once a year. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. And we're looking at areas such as trust and estate planning to see if we need to make any adjustments there. We're looking at tax mitigation strategies. As we all know, tax laws change on a regular basis, so we want to make sure that we're properly making the right adjustments. We're going to look at your investment portfolio. We want to make sure that you have that solid structure in place. And once again, if there's any adjustments we need to make over a period of time, we will do that with you as well. And then we're going to look at just some ancillary areas. We're going to look at risk management. We always want to make sure that you are protected, even post-exit. And then we're going to look at any other types of savings vehicles. If you have kids, grandkids that you're looking to do some educational planning, we obviously want to make sure that we account for that as well. Okay, so just to recap, we went through the 5-step process that we at Harvest Wealth Strategies go through with each and every one of our clients, starting with phase 1, which is the identifying stage, phase 2, risk management, phase 3, which is the growth phase 4, which should be the most exciting, which is the harvest phase, and then phase 5, which is the maintaining phase. So as we walk through this process with you, we spend a ton of time, and that is once again a reason why we only take on 4 clients a year. This process that we go through with clients is going to, on average, take about 1,200 hours of time. Now, the good news is a lot of that time's on us. We're not bringing you in for that full time frame, but it's a lot of work on our end to prepare everything, to put everything together, and more importantly, make sure that we make the right adjustments as we move through this process. So if you are interested in working with us, how do you get in touch with us? There's a couple different ways that you can do that. You can find us on LinkedIn. Me personally, I'm at Anthony Perez J, where you can actually go in. There is a link that you can go and click on a strategy session. We do offer a free 30-minute strategy session. We're in that 30-minute strategy session. We're going to determine whether or not we would be a right fit for you, and then also whether or not you would be a right fit for us. We want to make sure that it's mutual, that it's going to be beneficial for the both of us to be able to work together. We also offer, if you have just a couple questions that you have on the top of your mind that you want to ask, we're there to provide any type of value that we can in order for you to feel more comfortable with where you're at in your business journey. If you are watching this on YouTube, there's a link as well in the description where you can click on the same, get that 30-minute strategy session to talk to us around that. You can also find us on our website, which is www.harvestwealthstrategies.net. And once again, in that website, you'll be able to find the same link for the strategy session. For those of you business owners that are currently generating over $500,000 in profit, we do offer our free value gap assessment. It's kind of like the mini version of our Business Insights report. It's about a 15-minute questionnaire, just kind of gives you an idea of potentially what your business might be worth. Granted, it's going to be a wide range, and we definitely wouldn't say that that number is a full representation of the value of your business. But the best that you'll get out of that, the biggest value, is you'll get kind of a rough idea of where your company might be worth, but more importantly, that potential. And if you're honest in completing the questionnaire, which I would highly recommend, be as conservative as possible in terms of how you're answering the questions, you'll get to see what that gap is. And that's why we call it the value gap assessment, because it's going to show where you currently are at compared to what best in class is within your industry. We do offer that complimentary. If you want, again, you can find that on our website. You can also find it in any of the links that I talked about before. We do ask that, once again, your company is generating at least $500,000 in profit. The reason being is because, as I mentioned, we typically will only work with clients that are generating right around that range, because we want to make sure, again, that the value that we're providing for the fee that we ask for is going to be valuable for you. So that is something that I would say, as you're looking at that, just make sure that you're in that particular category. Even if you're not, the strategy session, we're more than happy to help in any way that we can. So if you're not at that $500,000 mark, you can get on our marketing list to be able to receive our newsletters on a monthly basis, which actually talks about different types of strategies you can take, different types of exit. We talk about just some different stories that can kind of make it a real life situation for you, so you have an idea of what that would potentially look like for you.